Let's go ahead and get started here today. We have a few people who are logging in. Hopefully we'll get people as we go on through the presentation. We'll let them into the meeting. So thank you for everyone who is here right now, and we will be recording this to be able to send out, to be able to use in the future for any other parents and anyone who is looking to guide their students in different ways moving forward in our high demand industries. So, welcome to the presentation. We're going to be talking about opportunities in Michigan's high demand industries. My name is Joe Thierry with West Michigan Works. I'm Business Solutions Manager, and I'm happy to be able to speak with a variety of industry professionals today about some different opportunities that are out there for students who may have just recently graduated. Just to give a little bit of an introduction, obviously we know that not all high school seniors know what they want to do after graduation, and we know that's okay. So today we're just going to be talking with some industry professionals to share some insights to people out there who are interested in learning more about the high demand industries, what an entry level opportunity looks like, what pathways look like in those industries. So we'll talk briefly about West Michigan Works and our high demand industries, but we'll have a majority of our time talking with our employers here, and then also talking a little bit about some resources that are available out there and wrapping things up with any questions as well. So West Michigan Works is the workforce development board for the West Michigan region. We cover Kent County and 6 counties surrounding. So going from the lakeshore with Ottawa, Allegan, and Muskegon, over to some more rural counties with Barry, Ionia, and Montcalm as well. We work with job seekers to help move them into high demand careers and help them with their skills so they can be successful in their positions. One thing I will mention as part of this presentation for anyone out there who does have a student or is looking at what opportunities might be there for their student, West Michigan Works also does offer youth programming for anyone who is 16 to 24 who is looking to find and keep a job or finish a high school or GED or even get training beyond high school. If you are interested in learning more about that, check out the West Michigan Works website. There is a contact form, and just indicate on there you're looking for more information on youth programming. Industry sector development within West Michigan. So West Michigan works with and within high demand industries to bring together employer collaboratives. These employer collaboratives are in construction, manufacturing, healthcare, IT, and agribusiness. And obviously those are the industries we have represented today. So we are happy to have individuals from each of those high demand industries that we have listed here to be able to talk about careers, especially for those who might just have finished high school. So with us today, we're going to kind of give you a little background on the event. So one thing I will mention that if you are looking at your screen of the different presenters, you should see on top there's a little grid button. Feel free to be able to click up there and click active speaker view or speaker view, and then you will be only seeing in a large capacity the person who's talking, and then everyone else will be kind of small within your screen. And we'll be talking with different employers and industry reps in these 2 sessions. So our session 1 is going to be talking to folks in agribusiness, healthcare, and information technology. Session 2, construction and manufacturing. So we're going to be able to learn about what they do in their role, and then be able to talk generally about the industry in terms of what opportunities are out there for your students. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen as we're going to get into the actual content here. And we're going to be able to introduce some of our employer partners as well as get some feedback from them. Just a note for everyone, if you do have questions, throw them in the chat. We'll be answering those questions in some question and answer, and we'll do a couple things with a little panel here and there as well. So to start things out, like I mentioned, we're going to talk to folks in IT, healthcare, and in agribusiness. So I'm going to start by just allowing the employers in the room to introduce themselves. They're going to talk a little bit about the industry and talk about some of the resources for younger workers. So I'm actually going to start it out with our employer rep from IT. So Claire Flarebell from Tech Defenders. So I'm going to give you the floor to provide an introduction and a little bit of information about your industry.
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So I am Claire Flarebell from Tech Defenders. So I currently do all of the talent acquisition and talent development here with the organization. So a little bit about Tech Defenders. We are not as well known in the tech industry, but we are in the device refurbishment space. So we are in kind of a weird niche market. We're technically in what's known as the ITAD industry, so IT asset disposition. Essentially what we do is we purchase old technology, we push it through our full production process here at our Michigan and Maryland location. Those devices go through our full process and then we resell them back out into the marketplace. So our whole goal is revitalizing mobile devices, so that's cell phones, tablets, and computers, and with the ultimate goal of making sure that the devices don't end up in the landfill. So we're either revitalizing them or recycling them appropriately. So that's a little bit about the company, the industry that we're in. A few kind of stereotypes of the IT industry. A lot of people think that it's widely for men. It is, tech jobs are only in California or Silicon Valley, or it's only for young people. Here at Tech Defenders, we have a wide range of employees that work here, all ages, all genders, all nationalities, and no experience is required. We do all on-the-job training. Typically, employees come into our product prep department to kind of learn a little bit about our industry, learn a little bit about the jobs, doing some of the basic functionality testing with our devices, and then we have career opportunities beyond that. So we have step progressions, so team players 1 through 3. We have team leads, we have team trainers. There's a clear progression for jobs that you want to have in this industry and at our company specifically.
Fantastic. And I know we'll probably jump into what those different ladders look like here in a little bit. And it's always exciting to hear about that and see what those options are. I'm going to pass it over to our healthcare representative. So Samantha Bull from Clark Retirement. I'll let you take it away of the background of your organization and a little bit about some career pathways.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Samantha Bull. Most people just call me Sam. I'm the director of HR at Clark Retirement Community. So healthcare right now, there's all sorts of kind of stereotypes and stigmas, right, with a pandemic. But the nice thing about working in healthcare is it's always available. It's secure. It doesn't go away, even with different things that are happening in the community and in the world. So at Clark Retirement, we have what we call independent living, assisted living, and even full 24/7 nursing care for different kind of senior elderly residents in the community. So a stereotype of working, I think, at a nursing home would be that it is sad, kind of, not very energetic, maybe just not the most lively or vibrant environment. But that's actually not what's going on here at Clark, because we're a life plan community. So we have individuals that are completely independent, but they say, you know what, I don't want to mow my own grass anymore. I want to live in a community. So I have friends, I can play games, I can go on outings, I can do philanthropy work. There's a community here. It's very similar to being kind of on a constant vacation. So the types of roles that we have to support our residents include helping with activities of daily living, should they need help with, more personal care, dining, cleaning, or even the fun things like life enrichment and going on outings. So it's kind of just a whole encompass of fun. If you were to think, I want to go work on a cruise ship, but I don't want to be on a cruise ship, you can come to Clark.
Fantastic. That sounds great. I would love to be in a cruise ship environment. That sounds wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And excited to be able to pick your brain on how some of those entry-level roles can expand in your careers. Shifting gears a little bit, I'm going to move it over to agribusiness. Courtney Allman from Lighthouse Foods is here talking about agribusiness food manufacturing. Courtney, just give a little brief background on yourself and then talk a little bit about entry-level careers in food manufacturing and ag.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Allman. I'm the HR manager at Lighthouse Inc. We are an employee-owned company since 2006. We produce refrigerated dressing, dips, sauces, and freeze-dried herbs. And then we also purchased Veggie Craft and Sky Valley. So just added to our portfolio. which is pretty exciting. We have manufacturing facilities in 4 different locations without the US. I'm out of our Lowell, Michigan facility, and we have 400 employees here. We have a different array of jobs. A lot of them do not require previous food manufacturing experience or manufacturing experience at all. We do a lot of on-the-job training, and we have career pathing for those individuals who are interested in moving up, either career path, natural progression, or we also have the positions that you would apply for the promotion. So we have 20 production lines in our facility, along with 6 mixed decks and a whole formulation department, along with other departments as well, such as warehousing, sanitation, and quality, along with maintenance. So I'm really excited today to talk about the different opportunities that we have within manufacturing, because I feel like one of the stereotypes is there's not a lot of growth once you join, a manufacturing organization. So I'm here to talk about today that that's absolutely false, and there's a lot of career growth and development opportunities. So thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, well, thank you for being here. We're excited to be able to hear about those. I think that's one of the big things that we love to be able to showcase is opportunities for growth. Having that long-term focus, so it's not just looking at what's the opportunity down the street to be able to get a couple cents more, but what type of opportunities are there growth within those organizations and industries, and what type of skills are people learning that can really lead towards great careers. So I'm going to have a panel question, and I'm going to start it out with Claire, but I'll have everyone answer this panel question as well. So really, what does an entry-level position within your organization really look like? Talk about some of the skills that will be learned, the tasks that they're doing, and then what would it look like based on that entry-level position as like the next step up? What does that career pathway kind of look like within your organization? So Claire, I'm going to start off with you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we call all of our entry-level employees our team players. Externally, they're known as device specialists, but our team players come into, like I mentioned briefly at the beginning, into our product prep area. This is the area where you really learn the nuts and bolts of what we're doing with these devices. So the kind of main functionalities that we're doing are device cleaning. We do both a physical clean and a data wipe, so data clean. We also run diagnostic checks on all of our devices to make sure that all the functionality is there and logging any issues that might need to be looked at further. And then the final thing we do is we give the device a physical grade. So we have a grading scale, and that really helps us understand what we can resell those for back out in the marketplace when it goes through our e-commerce and wholesale channels. So that's kind of the best place for any new employee to start. It takes about 4 weeks to be fully trained in all of those areas. So we have a training plan set up for what that looks like. And then growth beyond that is really up to the employee. We have our fulfillment area, our inventory area, if they have more of an interest in those types of roles. A lot of our employees move into what's known as our value add department after the product prep. This is where we're doing like light touch repair and some small value add activities. So, taking apart and replacing a screen or a track pad, or putting a skin on a device to cover up some imperfections so we can help elevate the pricing. So that's kind of where the entry-level roles start. And then steps from there. So as our team players are cross-trained and gaining more experience, they can move up into a team player level 2 position. So that's just based on additional skills and experiences that they've had at Tech Defenders. And then we do have a step 3 as well. And that's when they would move into more of a team trainer type of role. So really working alongside all of the new team players as they're coming in and going through orientation with them and onboarding in their role. And then the step up from there would be a team lead. So managing a department, kind of helping out with all areas within that area. So
That's great. Thanks, Claire. And from some experience of working with IT and tech employers, I know that a lot of times there are plenty of growth opportunities within the industry. Kind of getting what that first level is might not always be specifically the thought of IT option, but if you have someone who has a learning mindset, they really want to learn new technologies, learn about things because it's always changing. Those are really good skill sets to have. So that's great. We kind of talked about that and some of the skills they learn of like the actual physical components of some of the devices and some of the software components and things like that. I'm going to pass it over to Sam, talking about healthcare. Same question. What does kind of that typical entry-level role look like? And you could even talk clinical versus non-clinical setting. And then what type of pathways are you trying to promote within the industry and have you seen across the industry?
Sure, thank you. So first, I just want to say if anyone who's attending has a younger sibling or something like that, we do have volunteer opportunities for people who are still in school if they want to come on, see the organization, the environment to kind of determine if it might be the right atmosphere for them. So we're excited to be able to start doing that again after, the pandemic was here for a while, still here. But some of the entry-level positions that we have require certifications, but a lot of them do not. So depending on which level of care a resident is living in, somebody could be a non-certified caregiver, and that would really be a lot of on-the-job training. So we would teach this individual how to kind of look at a care plan, which is basically kind of a recipe for how to take care of somebody. Do they have to have a certain type of food? Do they have to, or do they prefer to be up or down at this certain time of day? Do they like to go for walks? Do they like to be read to? So kind of basics, showering, eating. We do have on-the-job training for those who want to become a medical technician for medication. So that can just be kind of reading through the list of the doctor's orders and making sure a resident is taking their medication timely. And then as we get over to the more skilled clinical areas, we do have requirements of licensed nurses or certified nursing assistants. So if somebody were to come on board at Clark and be a non-certified caregiver, we do have a tuition reimbursement program they can apply for to go through the 2 to 4 week CNA or certified nursing assistant program to get that certification. So it allows them to work in additional areas. It gives them really good skills with different equipment. And then, of course, it does lead towards a promotion and a raise. So that's always fun to celebrate. As far as non-clinical positions, you have to always image some sort of level of clinicalness, though, because of infection control. But we do have roles in dining or in housekeeping. If maybe getting kind of up into somebody's space isn't quite your thing, but you like to care for others, you want to help clean their home and chit chat with them and make them feel comfortable. The life enrichment team is a really, really good opportunity. I actually years and years ago started off on that team where you get to do fun things like bingo, gardening, kind of more of a holistic and spiritual approach to caring for someone. So we have tuition reimbursement, we have succession planning for non-clinical and clinical areas. And if you want to work in healthcare, you really just have to know that it's a humble opportunity. So of course the income is important, but really being interested in taking care of others and wanting to leave your job knowing that you did something meaningful is something that's really important for this industry.
That's great. Thank you very much for adding that. And I think that goes along with a lot of conversations that we've heard through our Health Careers Council in terms of hearing the stories of folks that start in, those sometimes non-clinical positions and environmental services, nutritional services within a healthcare setting, start to understand the industry, and through different programs, tuition reimbursement or other training programs, grow within that environment and grow into different roles, which are very in demand. And hospitals are not going away. So hospitals, long-term care, it's something here to stay. So I think it's a great industry to consider. And there's a lot of different pathways into it. Going over to Courtney, talk a little bit about in food manufacturing, agribusiness, what those entry-level positions look like, some career pathways, and then also some timelines that you guys see within being able to build on the skill sets and move up in organizations.
Okay, I'll start with our production position. So our entry level is called a line attendant 1. So the main functions and roles and responsibilities is that they package and stack product and materials according to the job specification. So they're looking at job tickets. They are making sure that the packaging is correct, dates are correct, that the printer is printing. And then they are putting the product into a box and then palletizing it. And that will eventually ship to our customer. They are also, they assist the machine tech in washes and changeovers. So just making sure that the correct wash is being performed, because if you are going to, say, an allergen to a non-allergen or vice versa, you have to make sure that you're doing the correct washes, because that could end up into, we don't want anything to ever happen to our customer or a recall or anything like that. So it's very important that, the attention of detail is there, especially with food. To train for a line attendant, it will take about 6 weeks to be fully trained. And then at 6 months, they can progress to a line attendant 2, which you're doing more of the training of new employees. You're also doing more of the quality checks. So a little bit more added responsibility with that. I see a lot of line attendant 2s then going into machine tech 1s. And then from there, there's a natural progression with that. So with the machine tech operator position, they are performing the basic machine duties, but also the preventative maintenance with that and troubleshooting. They're the ones responsible for making sure they have all the product to the lines and make sure that they can run the product. Again, they are also doing quality checks, verifying that they're doing the appropriate metal detector checks and all that. And then, so for Machine Tech 1, you at least have to operate a minimum of 1 production machine. But as they progress to Machine Tech 2 and 3, we have 10 different machine types. So learning those additional lines so they're able to move line to line through that. So I would say that's the basic one as far as production, but we have other departments as well that would be entry level with a natural progression.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes is missed is kind of the timelines even on things, is that you could be moving up and changing potentially positions within a year of being at an organization, which brings more responsibility, new training options, and a lot of growth. And for anyone in the audience or who sees the recording, through conversations with employers, if you have or know someone who is technically inclined and they want to look at a maintenance technician track, have them start that now, because I think every single I'd say a majority of employers in the area who have that type of work would snatch them up in an instant. So I know those are highly desired skills. So I'm gonna have one last question that we actually got from one of the registrations for the group here. I'll give each of you a minute or two to be able to answer this. What do you see as potential positions that maybe even don't exist today, or what type of skills that are you looking at in your work environments that 5, 10, 20 years down the road you think will be in demand? Anyone willing to jump in and share their thoughts on that question?
I can try.
Sure.
This is kind of a non-answer answer, but so Tech Defenders, we currently process about 375,000 devices a year. Our goal by 2030 is to be processing 3 million. So that's a huge increase in the next 9 years. So in terms of skills, abilities, what we're going to be looking for is obviously what we're doing today is not going to get us to where we need to be in 9 or 10 years with those 3 million devices. And so a big thing for us, since we are warehouse and some operations in tech, it's really people that are able to help figure out how to embrace the technology and process and change improvements within an operations in a warehouse setting. So I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities there. But then also, who knows what the future of tech looks like, even in 2-3 years. If we're working with different devices, there's going to be a need for that. We're currently looking at, we deal with a lot of Chromebooks because we're in the K-12 market pretty heavily. But moving forward, we're getting a lot more into Windows devices. And so there are going to be needed skill sets in those areas as well.
I can also try as well. One of the things that we are working on right now is an apprenticeship program. So we currently don't have that today. We are working through Michigan Works on setting up that under the DOL. So that is something, you know, somebody's interested in skilled trades or have that mechanical aptitude, that we would definitely, that would be something that we will be having in the near future. And I would just say in any sort of our positions, we have tuition reimbursement as well. So maybe somebody comes in and they even just starts in the hourly position, but they're really interested in engineering. That is also an opportunity as well. So I would say, you know, use the benefits that we offer, and it could lead to different opportunities within the organization.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you brought up apprenticeships. And I think we'll probably be, you know, talking about that with Jen and Steve, you know, moving forward here too. I think that provides a pretty good segue. And I'll talk a little bit about apprenticeships. So, you know, first I want to just thank Courtney, Claire, and Sam for sharing those insights on your industries. Really great information that we'll be able to use moving forward. And we're going to switch gears now. Just to our other industries represented, so construction and advanced manufacturing. So we have Steve Heatheis and Jen Schottke here. I'll start it out just providing the same kind of format. So I'll start with Jen. Just introduce yourself, where you are from, what you represent, and then talk a little bit about, you know, some of those entry-level pathways in the construction industry.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jen Schottke, and I represent the Associated Builders and Contractors Western Michigan chapter. So we are an industry trade association, and I support the commercial construction industry. So commercial is any building, anywhere that gets built besides a home. So a home would be the residential side. Those contractors that I serve are building hospitals and hotels and every other building that you might access that's not your home. My role is many things, but one of them is this really incredible opportunity I have to talk about the construction industry and hopefully to inspire our next generation of workforce, which we are in need of. 48% of our trade professionals are set to retire in the next 15 years. And so we are looking for young people who have a desire to work with their hands and their minds. We know that that's a special and unique set of skills. Not everyone has that. And so we think that's a really special kind of person that can work in our industry. We're also really, really great at capturing folks that don't have a plan. It's not uncommon to hear from a construction professional that maybe they tried college on for a minute and it didn't fit very well, or they just weren't sure what they wanted to do. So they started a summer job in construction, and now 30 years later, they're talking to us as the CEO of the company. And that's one of the things that I love about the industry that I serve, is that you truly can start at an entry level and work your way up through on-the-job experience to owning your own business. And so it's kind of a unique thing for construction, but maybe a best kept secret for us. Students who are meant for construction are makers and creators. They're artisans. They're always tinkering. They're looking around at their environment and questioning it. And they're problem solvers. No construction project goes perfectly according to plan. If you've ever been involved in one, you know that. And so we need students who aren't afraid of those little failures and are really, really good at understanding how to come back from a problem. So I know we're going to talk about entry-level positions in a bit, so I'll pass it over to Steve for now, and we'll come back to me after that.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Steve Heatheis. I'm with NN Mobile Solutions. We're a precision machining company located up by the Gerald R. Ford Airport. We provide components to automotive, industrial, and electrical applications. I have the privilege of being the training director and not only investing in our internal candidates to grow and develop, whether it's through some of our formal programs or their aspirations educationally, but also to interact with high school and college and other spaces to help them start to identify what paths they may be interested in. Additionally, our leadership feels that a vibrant West Michigan economy is good for all of us. And so I am privileged to be able to also lead the Discover Manufacturing industry collaborative. So it's partnered through West Michigan Works, and there are a collective of businesses that are interested in developing, inspiring and developing future manufacturers to join the industry. A couple things that I think are relevant is manufacturing is very vast. We're in metals, but here in West Michigan, not only are there organizations, name brands that people are probably pretty familiar with, from Herman Miller to Steelcase to Amway. There are a lot of organizations in West Michigan that manufacture. I think the other thing to understand is that plastics, woods, springs, metal machining, all of these different suppliers ultimately add into the products that we utilize every day. So the industry is vast. And the other thing about manufacturing is that the roles are vast, is you can come into manufacturing in, with little to no experience, and you can continue to grow. And as either your in-house knowledge develops or your educational knowledge develops, you have other opportunities that may compel you in different directions that you thought of. Maybe it could be a chemistry perspective, or it could be on supply chain, or it could be the HR and development and, the safety element, or whatever. So there's a lot of opportunities, not only because of the volume of employers in West Michigan, but also the roles. So I'll turn it back over to Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Steve and Jen. And I think that's a great point to be able to make for almost all of these industries, is the variety that's in them, and the options that are out there later in your career. There's ladders that you can step on certain tracks within each of those industries. And as a few of the employers have mentioned, and I'm sure that we'll mention here, there's a lot of resources out there for current employees to be able to get training, to be able to get a degree paid for, that leads into maybe some more of the professional type roles at some of these organizations. And those skills are needed across the industries in big amounts. So I'm gonna pass it back over to Jen to kind of talk about entry-level pathways into the construction industry, what those look like, how they grow, some timelines that go along with that, and what some of the options are out there for someone who might not have experience, and what that looks like moving up in the ladder.
Thanks, Joe. Entry-level careers are abundant in construction. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways to enter the industry. And it is very, very common, especially in the trade career pathway, to go to the doors of a company, whether it's an electrician or concrete or carpentry or whatever business you see, and walk in the door and fill out a job application. It's that simple, and it is very, very acceptable and customary. And so in a minute, I'm going to show you just a quick example of what a job application looks like in our industry, but they ask those basic questions about your high school experience and any work experience you've had, and maybe volunteer experience as well. And you would fill that application out on site at that contractor's office. And it's really that simple to get started. I also have a great graphic that I like to use when I talk about career pathways in the construction industry. So I'm going to share my screen and show you a commercial construction career tree. So this career tree shows 3 different levels that you can start or end your career in the construction industry. The great thing about our industry, as I mentioned in the beginning, is you don't have to stay on any one level of this tree. You can move about depending on the desires of the individual. So as you look at this bottom level of the tree, or the entry level, this is a job that someone would acquire just fresh out of high school or beginning their career in construction. So titles like craft helper, registered apprentice, warehouse coordinator, customer service, maybe project administrator. These are entry level jobs in the industry. A craft helper is someone who's going to be on the job site just doing odd jobs, helping out that foreman or site superintendent, cleaning up the job, running tools, that sort of thing. A registered apprentice might be in the electrical trade or plumbing or HVAC. And so they're going to do that earn while you learn model, where they're working during the day, getting on the job training hours, and then they're taking a class at night, sometimes within that company, maybe with a partner training organization, where they're learning the technical and theory skills behind the work. And that follows usually a 4-year path to become this technical career level of the tree. Again, the really great thing about construction is a student could start at this technical career level by attending a trade school or becoming a registered apprentice, and then moving up into one of these technical levels. So titles like electrician, plumber, carpenter, these are titles we know well. And then lastly, the professional level of the tree can be achieved both of these ways too, by just starting here and through on-the-job training over the years, ending up in one of these roles as a project manager, site superintendent, CEO, or even engineer. That's one of my favorite stories in the industry. You can become an electrician, and because you've been on the job assembling components and understanding the processes, you can then move into the office and do engineering without a bachelor's degree in engineering. It's pretty amazing. Or a student or an individual can attend a traditional college experience and start at this level as a project manager, site superintendent, engineer, etc. The really important thing about construction is that the level of the tree is not synonymous with pay. So there are folks who are working as master electricians, master plumbers, who are making more money than project managers and engineers. So really, our industry is robust with opportunity. It's really about where you want to be and what you want to do. And you can have a well-paying, life-giving career in construction. I promised I'd just do a quick walkthrough of a sample job application, which I have. Bear with me here. And so this is very traditional kind of information, right? Your name, your contact information, if you're eligible to work in the US, if you know anybody in the organization, and then education and work experience. So very standard, very customary, just to walk in the door and say you're interested in applying for a job. So don't shy away from doing that. The last thing I'll share as a resource for any student or parent who wants to learn more about construction, I'll drop these links in the chat, is a great resource called buildyourfuture.org. Here you can take a craft construction personality match test. I took it myself. It told me I should be a safety manager on a job site, which is great. A safety manager gets to travel to job sites that every day is different, yet they love the rules, which I do too. So they know the kind of legal rule side of how a job site should work safely, and they're able to train and help people so that they can work safely. So I'll drop these links in the chat. And if you want to explore careers in construction, you just take this test and then learn more on this website by going to construction careers and clicking on a variety of different trades here to learn all about what they do, how much they make, and the education that's required to begin. Thanks, Joe.
That's great. And I love seeing different visuals of it. I feel like, I know if parents in the audience, I'd love to say I have an answer on how to get your students and teenagers interested to talk about long-term futures and career laddering. But I don't. I think that's why we have conversations like this. And the more that we can share information and visuals and information about the trade, the more education we have on it, it's going to be make a big difference in people's lives. So I'm going to pass it over to Steve, talking a little bit about entry-level positions within the industry or organization, how they ladder on top of each other. And then I know specifically at AutoChem you have a number of apprenticeships. So maybe touch on the apprenticeship model and the value of apprenticeships as well.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And I'll start broadly. I think that in manufacturing, I think that's been a very traditional space as well as construction. And I applaud IT and healthcare for and agribusiness for looking at those opportunities as well. I think it's a really great model for an individual to grow their skill set. So the apprenticeship model, I think the benefit of it yields education alongside of work, but I think we kind of get that concept, but it provides context. And I think that's what provides so much value for a learner, is that they can be either in a classroom setting or in a training or whatever, and they can be talking about the relevant needed knowledge, and then they can go apply it, and it comes together well. And so an entry position in manufacturing generally is an apprenticeship. Other roles could be in shipping and receiving, or assembly and things like that. For our facility here, we're a very lean organization as far as making sure that our associates are provided the tools and resources to be able to do the full width of their job, the full width and breadth. And so the apprenticeship model works for us because our investment in their development helps them to be more effective. I'm going to take a page from Ms. Shotke there, and I'm going to go ahead and share a screen here. And one of the things that I think is significant, and I believe you'll find this across both manufacturing and construction and others, just making sure that I'm sharing the right screen. You should see a learn and earn screen, correct? I see the head nods, right? It's interesting development over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, the understanding of paying for college and how do we balance out the rising cost, the need for employers to have participants in the workforce. And so we have a model here that just identifies if somebody's looking to head to community college, depending on if they're in district or out of district, the in district costs over 6 semesters to attain an associate's, a gen ed's associate's, is about $10,000 or almost, $18,000 if you're out of district. And I think there's value in that, right? It's obviously we're not sure what we want to do, kind of is the concept. So I'm going to go get my gen eds done, because regardless if I go to 4-year, if I go to 2-year, I got to get those done. But again, I think you lose the context, and that's the thing that I think we can provide through our approach, where we can either provide that education first focus, where it's 6 semesters to get the associate's degree while working in industry. So there's less income overall for those 2 years, but the associate's degree is done quicker. Or the apprenticeship model, which Joe was just talking about. In our apprenticeship model, you're working, an individual is working more, but then still having the opportunity to attain an associate's degree. And so over the course of 2 years, they would complete a cohort through our organization, which would give them 27 credits towards their associate's degree if they choose to pursue it. It does complete the US DOL educational requirements, and then they can complete the remaining hours of our apprenticeship. But you'll see here that the highlight obviously is the increased wage, right? And this is a first year salary. We start out at 15. And so there's raises every 6 months and through the duration of their apprenticeship. And, an individual is able to make a good living while they're learning in context, and we're picking up the tab on the education. So it elongates the education process, but it puts more money in the pocket right off the bat. An interesting scenario here is I had a student start in 2013 that is now, they're going to graduate their bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from GVSU. And I asked them why they chose to do the apprenticeship over the associate's degree offering. And a very candid answer, they said, I wanted to move out. I wanted to live on my own, and I couldn't live on my own working part-time and going to school full-time. It would have been too much debt. So I pursued the associate's degree. And again, it's going to take, they're about 8.5 years. They took a little break in between, but they'll end up with a mechanical engineering degree from GVSU with 8 years of relevant industry experience. And that's a very valuable employee for us at that point. So Joe, that's what I have right now at this point.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I love that visual, being able to show the net gain or loss. And yes, I think a lot of times, you have some traditional paths that, when someone might not take the traditional path, it's viewed as, something different, and kind of negative connotation, when there's so many positives that go along with that, not only earning money right off the bat, but getting an education that gets paid for as well. And you shared some information about some entry-level wages, which I think is a lot of times, very competitive and higher than a lot of folks even think about. I'm gonna ask Jen even just to share a little bit on construction. Where do some of those entry-level wages start off? Some timelines on how that grows, and where you see some of your employers starting and where people end or can go within a few years.
Well, post-pandemic, in a highly demanding workforce situation, I'm watching wages rise almost by the day. It is remarkable what's happening out there as we all compete for talent and for entry-level talent. And so whereas I may have told you pre-pandemic that a 18-year-old new apprentice is going to make between $12 and $15 an hour with a 50-cent raise every 6 months, I'm now seeing those wages at $17 to $20 an hour, depending. Like, this is maybe the electrical apprentice route. It does very much vary by trade. There are, I could say there's a variety of anywhere from probably 15 to 20 right now, depending on which company and which trade a young individual would want to start in. But the growth opportunities are extraordinary, and the benefits are really great in the industry too. As you become management in our industry, it's very typical that you would have a company truck and tools and all of those assets that are really important in our industry. And you can have those things really after 4 to 8 years of employment in construction.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times it's, people don't fully understand the added benefits that go along with some of the different work in skilled trades, manufacturing, construction, that you don't always get in typical settings, and the training that's provided, and ultimately even the wages that come along with it. Passing it over to Steve, I want to kind of talk about somewhat in that vein, but also looking towards the future for manufacturing. Could you share with the audience, just dispelling any myths? Sometimes when people hear manufacturing, they think of certain things. So dispelling any myths that you know of and see within the industry, and then what you kind of see as the future as well.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And I'm sharing, this is the Discover Manufacturing website, and I think this kind of highlights what we're getting to. I think as the community and as the industry continues to recognize not only the consistency that some of the automation provides, but also really value add elements for employment as well. To have somebody that's technically capable of developing, programming, sustaining this type of equipment. I mean, this is a clean facility. The technology on the screen here is advanced. I think this is going to be the really compelling future of a lot of things. And what's also interesting, we represent different industries here, but if you think about the blurring and blending of some of these elements, right? You can think of 3D printing and the opportunities that it might have in construction. You can think of what Claire was talking about with Tech Defenders, where you have all of these, acquired, devices that were manufactured somewhere, and they're redeploying and recycling these elements, right? That's really a manufacturing experience as well. And then we all rely on IT infrastructure in order to even be on this Zoom call. And then the agribusiness, I mean, just the ability for us to, effectively feed a community, for lack of a better way to say it. I mean, I think there's a real blurring, and I think it's going to be around technology, that I'm illustrating here on the screen. It's going to be the skill sets that can not only think of what could we do and what could we make more repeatable to be done consistently, but also, the ideas behind that, I think, is really where opportunities are going to grow. And so what does that look like, right? For a high schooler that thinks drone technology is cool, or for, the robotics class, or for, they sit in their chemistry class and, they just as soon mix things and see what happens as, listen to the lecture, so to say. I think all of these things are really, compelling for a student to get into any one of our 5 industries that are represented here. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's always cool when we hear stories of people who join these industries that they may not have thought of before. And you hear over and over things about, like school may not have been, that their thing. And then they learn so much on the job, and then how that really revamps their love for certain aspects of school, because they can actually apply it to what they do in the real world. So I think that's one of those things, for anyone in the audience, of saying, okay, what's my next step? it's just trying to determine, getting your foot in the door, maybe trying a variety of industries and seeing what that's like, but knowing, what options are out there, what industries are in demand. And that comes down to some education and resources. So one thing I was going to share as we wrap up, before I get into it, I just want to say a big thank you to all of the industry representatives for sharing that information. I feel is super helpful for anyone who's really trying to figure out what might be next. So I'm going to share just a couple of resources for everyone in the audience here. Give me 1 second to pull up my screen. A couple of resources for people in the audience who are saying, oh, hey, I love what I'm hearing. What's the best way to kind of explore this a little bit more before potentially submitting a job application? So there's a variety of resources that are out there, and some of the best that we have seen, especially here in Michigan, are listed. So I'm going to add some links in the chat as well for everyone that could go directly towards some of these resources. So the first resource on here is the ONET Online Interest Profile. So I added a link both for the ONET Online and the Interest Profiler. ONET Online is a database of jobs. So it's the world's largest database of jobs. And you can do a lot of research on what these jobs actually do. Can be a little overwhelming. So that's where there is this interest profiler as part of the ONET, which is a short test you can take that can give you some direction on what types of jobs might be out there or aligned with what you or your student interests are. Another resource is through the state of Michigan called Career Pathfinder. Included in the link. There's a section for parents to be able to do some different research on different jobs to help guide their student. There's a section for job seekers and students to be able to explore different careers. And there's a lot of good labor market information about what is in demand out in there in the community. The last resource I'm sharing here is a resource through Kent ISD, Parents as Career Coaches. There is a webinar in there on how parents can be more involved with coaching within career choices, some resources to use, some different career exploration tools as well. And then finally, the items I'm sharing are through West Michigan Works. So I included the website up there, westmiworks.org. And one of the things that is really cool that you can be able to look at on that website, not only be able to submit information to learn more about what we offer, is our hot jobs list. So this is a list that we compile on a yearly basis that outlines the most in-demand jobs in West Michigan. We pull that information with labor market data. We vet it with employers. Several of the employers in the room are probably part of that process of vetting this data to make sure it's accurate. And it outlines what those high demand industries and high demand jobs are going to be for the next 10 years. So we know that we're promoting positions that we know will be around and continue to grow for years to come. So overall, that's all the resources that we do have for you today. I hope that everyone who is seeing this webinar is getting a lot out of it. You're able to provide some really good feedback towards your students or others in the community on what some next steps might be. Some resources that are in the chat. Click on them now, bookmark them, and then we'll also plan on sending a copy of this recording out to all registrants along with those resources for everyone to reference. So on behalf of West Michigan Works, I want to thank all the industry representatives who participated today and thank everyone in attendance. And we hope that this webinar can provide some great information for you and your students as you move forward in their career paths. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.